welcome to the Do That Music Thing podcast, hosted by Christopher Foust and presented by 1840 Music Group. This is the podcast where we dive deep with the people pushing the music industry forward, whether it's managers making bold moves, promoters breaking new ground, lawyers changing the game, or artists blazing their own trail. We talk to the folks making it happen. Every episode is packed with real-world stories, strategies, and tactics you can use to grow your own career in music. If you're looking to break through or just stay sharp, you're in the right place. Let's get into it and do that music thing. Good morning and welcome to another episode of the Do That Music Thing podcast, where we are talking with movers, shakers, people making moves in the music industry and moving their careers forward. And today I have an awesome guest. I'm so excited to have Amy Kline on from Parking Pad. And Parking Pad is a show production and promotion organization in, I believe, South Pittsburgh. Is that right, Amy?
Yeah, we're in a borough just south of the Pittsburgh border. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Amy, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Glad to be here. This is exciting. I'm happy to see you bringing this back and get some more cool people on other than me. In addition to me. Yeah.
The bar is set high. The bar is set absolutely high now. So all my other guests, take notes. But Amy, tell us a little bit about Parking Pad, right? What you're doing now. And then tell us a little bit about your story, how you ended up where you are now.
Sure. Yeah, we're going into our 5th season of house concerts here at our place in Dormont. Like I said, just south of the Pittsburgh border. We have 5 booked this year. We had 1 last week. That was the first time we ever had to move inside because Pittsburgh had unbelievable storms last week and the yard was a swamp. And so we had a Leslie speaker right under this standing desk where I'm at, which is right, like moving in furniture, all sorts of fun. But we have five shows planned this summer, as well as a couple. We're running a couple stages for Dormont Pride and for Dormont Art in the Park, which is a arts and music festival that both of them are arts and music festivals taking place here in the borough. We are also doing some new to us is comedy. We booked the Dormont VFW, which everyone knows what a VFW is. It's a social hall just up the street. We've been booking there for about 4 years, I think, and started to get into comedy a bit there, which was an all new thing for us, and went well enough that we're booking another one. We have one in July now, so that was we get a lot of calls that are like, I want to be an event promoter, but I don't know how, and so I've been doing that type of like sort of mentor work quite a bit right now to my partner, Stefan, who runs the Parking Pad with me. He's the production end of it, or the marketing and booking end of it. He always talks about how he wants to franchise the Parking Pad. Like, we can teach you how to do these big house shows at your place. And then we can come and just watch a house show and not have to work, which is a common theme in the ticketing and music business, right? Like, I haven't seen a show in years. So. But yeah, we're growing into doing some consulting work, some sound engineering work, live sound engineering work, and just running some production for some other things. All out of let's have a show during COVID and see what happens, and this is what has happened. So.
Well, let's go back a little bit. You mentioned COVID, right? And it sounds like a lot of what you're doing kind of spawned out of that. So let's talk a little bit about how the quarantine and COVID kind of shaped where you are now.
Yeah, we started with, we were missing music as a lot of people were, as a ton of our friends were. And our friends that are in bands weren't able to play anywhere. The bars were closed and every space was closed. And so we started as with the one bluegrass band. It was completely non-amplified. We weren't sure how the borough would respond to us gathering people during it was April of 2021. So it was still fairly early in the, I think everything opened up kind of in August 2020 for a minute, and then they were like, no, that was a bad idea. And so we did this one, and we probably had 60 or 80 people in the yard and around, and we did a potluck, which we still do. And it was a really cool community event. And it was one we walked away from, and the next day said, like, how do we do it again? Like, why not? And like, let's amplify it a little bit this time, see what happens, see who complains. And then the one we had this past weekend was the 21st concert that we've had, running this house concert series that the borough has been nothing but supportive of and amazing. And so we've had a lot of luck, just with the way the neighborhood saw what we were trying to do, which was help each other and form community. And we still kind of sit on that mission today. Like, we are doing community engagement work and placemaking work and other buzzwords that are good for things like small business grants and and festival grants and things like that. But it's been nothing but positive to work here in Dormont. So
That's amazing. And it brings up my next question, and it's around kind of the state of live music, right? I'm in Nashville. The ecosystem here is a little different, right? We are heavily saturated, and we have an entertainment district right downtown, Broadway, where there's music playing from 9 a.m. to 2 a.m. the next morning. And that's a very small cross section of kind of like the live music industry here in town. But outside of that bubble, which is all really heavy, like cover tunes and that sort of thing, which is great. I did that last summer, loved it, was a blast. But original music, right? It seems like since maybe 2010 or 12, there seem to be less and less places where original music can be played. Give me a little bit about, what you're feeling, because it sounds like the whole house concert thing or the community style, smaller style festival might be an alternative for markets that are experiencing what we're experiencing in Nashville.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's bars specifically are out looking for cover bands, right? They're looking for dance bands, original music. Even original music that fits into that genre is struggling to find its place. And there's only so much you can do to say, like, no, I swear we're like Journey, right? Or like, I swear you're gonna get, like, we'll get people on their feet. But I don't know exactly what it is about the nature of the nature of people to be a little afraid of the unknown, where they go and they don't want to hear a song they haven't heard before. When pop music, right, is constantly churning out new music, and everyone is still listening, at least on streaming services. Selling original music is another whole conversation, like selling physical media on a vinyl or CD. But we don't actually edit our music in that way, right? Any of the live concerts that we present, we welcome original music. We welcome tribute bands. Most of the tribute bands, we're in the jam band space, and so we're doing a lot of, like, we're seeing dead bands, and like there's a friend that plays. He calls it Widespread Panic. His name is Kevin Ward, and it's a 90-minute Widespread Panic. I've seen him do it for 3 hours straight. Actually, he knows a lot of Widespread Panic. But we don't edit them in that way or censor them in that way. And we want to encourage people to play their original tunes, even if it's a mix of covers and originals, right? Like, get people's attention with a cover and keep their attention with your original. And we Dormont has its own big music festival run by the borough that specifically caters to original music. They have, there's probably 15 or 20 bands booked over one day, and most of what you're going to see is original music. And so I think that's really, really special and unique. Even, you know, you even go to some street fairs and community events, and you're seeing cover bands again. And again, there's nothing wrong with it. It brings people out. But I just wish it was more. I wish people were braver and more accepting of the unknown.
When it comes to promotion and production, right? This is for the listeners that want to get into that space.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone who wants to book or promote their first show? What are some pieces of advice you'd give to them?
Yeah. Have a thick skin, right? Take all your no's and learn from them. You get a lot of that especially as a new promoter, if you're trying to move into an established venue or bar. They generally already have a promoter that they work with, or a few promoters that they trust. But have a thick skin, take your no's, and ask why, and learn from that. You know, Stefan and I are constantly learning. There's a space here. He's a manufacturing engineer by trade, but has a good ear and has a knowledge of engineering, and has gone and taken some classes here in the area. There's a company called Tech 25 that offers free classes in sound engineering. And I know that's unique, or might be unique. It's at least the only one I know of in Pittsburgh. But they are teaching new production teams to be better and not just learn on the job, which is helpful as well. You know, find a mentor, but try to learn from the best in your area, and pay attention to what's going on around you, and go see shows. Go to lots of shows and pick it apart. Maybe not right there, but when you walk home, pick it apart. Like, what did I not like? What did I like? And what can I do differently that makes me unique to this space?
Would you say for promoters that it's equally as important to, you know, pick the right band, but it's also to build an actual event?
Yes. Yeah, of course. I think it's the experiences a lot of times what people are looking for. I think that's why our house shows are so successful for us. We are, like I said, there's a community element. There's they've put a lot of trust, our audience has put, and our musicians have put a lot of trust in us, in that, yeah, you're coming to our house to play a show, but we're going to give you a full production. We're going to give you lighting and sound and all of the things that you would expect anywhere else you would play. We're also going to pay your guarantee. We're not going to make you work for door. It's not a pay to play. People have actually asked us, how much does it cost to play there? And the answer is, not, the cost is on me, right? I'm going to pay you, and then I'm going to sell tickets, because that's my job as a promoter. And so there's we've built a lot of like love and trust about in what we do. And we've had people say, like, this is what music should be kind of like, right? Like, here with your friends, you can sit quietly and listen if you want, which was unique actually for us being inside last week, is that people kind of stacked up. You can see the house kind of goes straight back in the sunroom. There's a living room behind me and a dining room, and then the windows go to the backyard. And so the band was right where I'm sitting. There was a living room that was sort of people sitting on the floor listening. People were dancing in the dining room. And then we opened the windows to the backyard, and because it's the jam band scene, everybody's got an easy up in their car. And so they put tents up in the yard, and that was more of like a social festival element. And just the fact that people felt so kind of comfortable in finding their spot in here is really, really special to me, and kind of a testament to, like, yeah, do whatever makes you comfortable here. And so that experience for them gave everyone sort of a sense of, or gave everyone sort of a enjoy music how you want and how works best for you. And I don't know that you always can get that in the bars, right? Where it's noisy, everyone's talking over everything, especially over like there's a lot of singer-songwriters doing like solo bar things. And I think that's gotta be the hardest gig in the world, man. Like everybody has 2 beers and then the volume, their volume goes way up, right? And you lose them. So I really respect those people.
It's super cool. You essentially got to experience what a lot of us who listened to 60s and 70s music like romanticize about.
Yeah.
It's almost like you are rebuilding that communal element about live music, and that's awesome. I
Yeah.
commend you for that.
Thank you. That's a very cool way to look at it. I hadn't thought about that. But yeah, there is some romance to it. But like on the Thursday of every show week, we're like, why do we do this? And then on Saturday, we're like, yes, good. And Stefan always says, like, if the IRS calls, tell them I get paid in the feel goods, right? Like, right? Like, it's like getting paid with exposure, but you leave feeling great about it. So, but it's so true, right? Neither of us are taking a paycheck. If we do make a little bit of money on each show, it's going back into making the next one better. I used to work in a jazz venue, and we would get a lot of questions about, like, why are you booking so much smooth jazz? And it's like, well, smooth jazz pays the bills. If you really want, like, if you want the weird new stuff, you have to come to smooth jazz so that we can keep doing the unusual things. And I think that happens with us as well, right? Where we know that we know what shows people will come to, and we know ones we'll have to work harder for. And we do, where it's like, the band isn't as exposed in this market, or they're newer, younger, they're newer and younger bands. And sometimes there's some learning for them as well, right? Like, I don't need you to sell tickets, but I do need you to share this on Facebook, or I do need you to be like, to think about yourself as a piece of the promotion package. I think that's a big factor, in making sure that we can continue to do this and continue to support new music and original music too.
What would you say to a new artist, as you mentioned? What would you say to those folks, those bands, artists that want to be on your shows? How should they approach it? What should they do? How should they be prepared?
Yeah, that's a good question. I talked to some other like festival promoters about that as well, and we all kind of say the same thing about how to approach a festival or a venue. One of the first things you should say is, I come to your venue all the time and I love it. Right? I just saw XYZ. We want to know that you've been here and you understand what you're getting into. And I think that, we get a lot of pitches from a lot of really generic pitches, and you kind of see right through them. They haven't been here. They don't understand even what this space is. And that's not to say that they should all come to every show. I know bands are working musicians, right? Like, we're putting on shows on Saturday nights. And so if they could take a paid gig, take it. But knowing the space and understanding kind of the relationship that I'll have with them is pretty important. Talk to the other bands that have played here. Make sure that you know just a little more than some of them do. And that whole you're part of the promotion package is really important. The bars complain that the bars think the band should bring the whole audience, and the band thinks the bars should bring the whole audience, but it's really a partnership between all three pieces. And here I'm the promoter and the venue, so it's a little easier. But I talk about this all the time when bars say, like, nobody came to that band, and I'm like, well, what did you do? And did you have a promoter in the middle or someone dedicated on your staff that's job is to just repeat over and over and over again that this band is playing here Friday night and you should come?
Let's talk about that. Okay, I'm going to do my best to try and not get controversial or
Yeah.
hot takes or whatever.
Yeah.
But I am a I'll call it a student of classic rock. And I know times are different. I get it.
Sure.
But when you look at scenes, like specific scenes over the course of the last like 40 or 50 years,
Yeah.
you have these bubbles, right? You have like, I know it's an atypical one to use or a typical one to use, but Seattle, right? You've got a group of venues, you've got a
Yeah.
group of artists that are just they're in this bubble playing nonstop. People are coming to them. They're kind of picking out their tribe, and that doesn't seem to happen anymore. At least not at the frequency that it used to happen.
Yeah.
And what I've seen less and less of, and I think you could say this about many other industries that surround artists, it's all relying, a lot of it has just more and more fallen on top of the artist, whether it's
Yeah.
management, promotion, etc. But what I'm getting at is that it was my understanding as a kid that you would go to X club for the best punk music. You would go to this club for the best classic rock. You would go to this club for the best whatever. But the clubs kind of built these brands for themselves,
Yeah.
and whether it's economically, shift in marketing, combination of, I feel like a lot of that has slightly shifted more towards the artist. Now, that can clearly be dependent upon market, but I'd love to get your take on that.
Yeah, we're in a really good place in that we are immersed in a scene here, right? We're immersed in the jam band scene, which has just over the last few years seemed to have stretched its wings a little bit anyway. They are more apt to come to something that doesn't call itself a jam band, but has those kind of has those elements, has those roots. I think about it all the time, like about jam band fans who don't realize that they're listening to jazz. And right. I'm like, you're wrong. But they seem to be stretching a little bit. And I don't know if it's our particular audience is aging into different music, different scenes. They want to sit down, they want to take in music in a different way. But I think that, we still have those specific bars. Like we have a club here called 222 Ormsby. That's a sort of house venue. That's almost all punk scene. But I have seen that some of the funk bands and jam bands are kind of working their way in there, which is amazing. But they, for a long time, were just a punk scene. And I just think that I think it's part economics, right? Like if you want to program every night, there's only so many punk bands to go around. And so you have to stretch a little bit. And if you want people to, if you want people to come to your punk shows, you have to reach outside that audience as well. So put on a funk show or put on a classic rock show, and maybe you'll see just a handful of people that are mixed between the two audiences, but you'll start to see that intermingling a bit more. And there are still some that absolutely refuse to go outside of their genre, and it works for them. But I think that this is bigger than this, but like I think that pop music too has incorporated a lot of interesting elements recently, especially like the kind of female pop scene that's happening right now with like Boy Genius, which is Boy Genius versus Chapel Roan, right? Like they have sort of similar audiences, but they're very different musically. And so I think there's just some kind of swing happening where Chapel Roan will rattle off her influences or Boy Genius will rattle off their influences. And it's like, then people start looking back at like Joni Mitchell and those kind of like, right? Like just interesting puzzle pieces that fit into musical genres.
All right, let's shift gears a little bit and let's talk about festivals.
Okay.
Let's talk about festivals. Everybody loves a good festival nowadays. When I was a kid and when I was in, middle school, junior high, high school, the only festival that we had was Warp Tour.
Okay, yeah.
Like, and
Right.
we went every summer, right?
What about Ozfest?
Ozfest came a little later, and arguably I may have been a little too young to enjoy it to its full
Uh,
extent. I mean, am I completely aggravated that I didn't get to experience Pantera in their original existence? Yes. But yeah, I love this growth of even local
yeah,
grassroots festivals, and I know that Parking Pad does some of that. So let's talk about that a little
yeah,
bit.
yeah, we do. We started as partnering with Dormont Arts and Dormont Community Development Corporation on their kind of combined Pride Festival, and booked their stages, and that was, I think, 3 years ago now, maybe 4. Um, and we were booking jam bands on Pride Fest, and because it's what we knew and it's who we wanted to work with, and so we kind of got into, we kind of became known for being the person to bring that type of music to the festivals that are happening locally. Um, the Dormont, Dormont Pride has changed a little bit. I still book a little bit of funk on there, but like this year they're having a big wedding in the middle of the day, like a big group wedding. And so I reached out to a great sax player, Alec Red, and said, like, can you put together, I know you don't have a wedding band, but can you put together like people from the jam scene that can play a wedding and play like these? And so they're playing it's all queer and non-binary players, or mostly playing like funk jams and 80s like wedding hits, all female led.
That's awesome.
It's
That's
gonna
awesome.
be so much fun. And so like it's about finding the right band to play the right thing at your festival that keeps people dancing and keeps people paying attention and keeps them happy. And so there, anyway, that's sort of a tangent, but yeah, we have these two great kind of grassrootsy festivals here in Dormont, and a million tiny festivals popping up in Pittsburgh. Right outside of Pittsburgh is pretty rural. And so there's a lot of great campgrounds and things having their own small festivals. And it's like a low entry point for people to go and be exposed to the regional music scene at $80 for the weekend or something, including camping or some like ridiculously low price. And it's just a good intro to festival living, experiencing, surviving, right? And so like, can you car camp in the rain for 2 days? Maybe you can try maybe you can go to the ledges, like Nelson's Ledges, or you can go to Del Fest, right? Like you get a little bit of that taste. And then you either love it or hate it, right? So um, but yeah, there's still some pretty genre specific, going back to that topic, festivals around us like Del Fest, but even that seems to lean more towards like it's a bluegrass festival run by Del McCrory's family, and it was all bluegrass, and they still have their the Del, I don't know if they call it Del Academy, um like to train. You can go and take master classes if you're a picker, um or other player in the scene. But they also book things like Tyler Childers, and like, so they're getting this, there's a lot of cross genre stuff now happening there that is like like the lines meet, right? Very much so. It's a Venn diagram of bluegrass and country. But there's just such the festival environment. I think post COVID, we weren't sure what would happen, but people are still into it, especially an outdoor music experience. I know people that are still they do not want to be in the basement club with 800 people, understandably, sometimes, right? Let's pack everybody into a black painted basement and see what happens. So.
You mentioned something really interesting, and I want to hit on it a little bit. And it was about, you mentioned that you became the promoter for the jam bands, essentially. I may have not worded it that way, but you kind of just naturally evolved into that.
Yeah,
How do you think I mean, was it natural? Did you, once you kind of realized that this was kind of your niche, that
yeah.
you started to kind of brand yourself as that person, or your organization, or how did that kind of come about?
No, it was pretty natural. We were already, Stefan and I already in that scene musically, like those were the concerts we were going to, or the bluegrass or funk. And so we started that, like the first season we did here, we had bluegrass, and then we had jazz, and then we had an acoustic duo that does like classic rock and dead covers, and so the audience kind of came to us, and we were, the more we were immersed in the local music scene, the more bands that we became familiar with that we loved, and then started booking. And it's like a snowball effect, right? Like the more bands you love that you book, the more bands come to you. And then we started getting some emails and outreach from regional bands as well, and they all came from Americana, folk, or jam band. And so we did sort of we kind of found our spot, and then they found us. And so, and now the community has settled in around us, and we're constantly talking about like, what's the next thing, who's the next band that we're going to book, and they do generally just fall into that jam scene. And I think there's probably one of me in most scenes that that ends up being that kind of, if not the person that can book your band, can tell you at least who to go to. You know, we're busy that night, but here's 3 other venues that we know that we were at over the last weekend or whatever. So, but yeah, we do get some regional acts reaching out now and have booked them. We booked one last year, Brendan Jonas. He's a folk player. He keeps coming duo, and just was routed properly. We had Oregon Fairchild here last year too. That's the story. They're from Buffalo. They have a great resume. They're a 3-piece organ funk trio. And they reached out to us, and I said, like, I don't think I can meet your guarantee. Like, you read their resume, and I'm like, I can't make, there's no way I can pay these guys to play my house. And I said, like, we'd been booking at the Hollywood Theater, which is a movie house up the street, but it closed for renovations. And so I said back to them, like, hey, I'd love to book you. This would be awesome, but we just don't have the spot for you. And they're like, no, but we heard about the Yard. We want to play the Yard. And we were like, okay, like, come on in. And so we've gone to see them we saw them in Youngstown, Ohio, last year. They're playing Dark Star Jubilee this year, and are kind of popping out. They did some touring over the last year, but we were like, I built a great relationship with them. We're so honored to be thought of in this way. Like, and I never did ask them, like, how did you actually find us? Right? Like, the message came through Instagram, but how did you actually get to me? But yeah, we have kind of just found our space.
In Nashville in 2009-ish, 2010, there wasn't really a rock promoter in town. And we were like the heavy rock scene. So
Yeah.
hardcore, hard rock, metal, etc. Right? There really wasn't, and there were only like a handful of venues to play in, 3 hours from like Nashville to Memphis, or Nashville to Knoxville, Chattanooga, Atlanta. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because the best relationship I've ever had in the music industry was with a promoter. And a lot of
Yeah.
people in the scene might remember Dungeon Bonnie. We called her Dungeon Bonnie. She ran Dungeon
Okay.
Promotions. And she brought that little scene together. Like,
Yeah.
everyone coalesced around her. She was really good at putting on shows. She put them on all the time. And she was a beautiful human being,
Yeah.
incredibly just sweet, like just aggressively positive.
Yeah.
And uh, I I just remember how much she impacted our career and our music.
Yeah.
And she even started a local award show that ended up being pretty
Okay.
big, right? For, it was
Yeah.
like a local rock metal award
Yeah.
show.
That's fun.
And oh, we had a blast. I mean,
Yeah.
it was only scheduled for like 3 hours, and it ended up running like 6 or 7 because we just kept going and kept like
Right.
having a good time.
Yeah.
But the reason I say that is because I think that artists, one thing that is easily forgotten is those relationships with
Oh,
promoters.
yeah, I totally agree. And, like I said, our mission has always been like around community engagement. We also always pay artists, right? No matter what. We're not, nobody rides, nobody plays for free, nobody rides for free, right? Like we're paying everybody and take on the risk ourselves to be able to do so. And I think that has built a lot of trust with artists. They want to play with us because they don't have to worry that they're not going to get cut out at the end of the night, right? Or they're going to get cut out, get like the door's going to be low and they're going to be like, well, here's your $5. So, right. Like there's none of that with us. And I think that has gone a long way in forming these relationships where, bands, obviously bands talk to each other, and in the jam band scene, they're all in each other's bands. And so we want to make sure that we're trusted and liked and have kind of earned the respect that we get by doing the right thing for people. And like, it's just that simple, do the right thing for people. And there's plenty of promoters in this city itself that do not do that. And, I will never mention their names, but it's one of those things where they're like, I don't want to play for them because I know that there's 5 of us in this band and they're going to give us $50 at the end of the night. And it's brutal. So comedy's even worse. I've heard them tell me like, we might get $20 at the end of the night. We might. I'm like, yeah, I know you only did like 7 minutes, but like you put hours and hours, just like musicians, you put hours into like perfecting this on the whiteboards I've seen in your dining room, right? Like where you're workshopping all day long and telling the same jokes to your family for like 6 weeks. And right. Like there's a lot of work here. Don't accept that, right? Fight for something. You deserve better. So
That's a good transition. One thing that I love about Parking Pad is that you have diversified out into comedy.
yeah,
Let's talk a little bit about that because that's
yeah.
a realm that I'm not remotely familiar with.
Neither were
So,
we. Neither were we. But there's a club here called Bottle Rocket Social Hall that is founded by a guy named Chris that used to be a comedy manager in LA. And so when he came here, he knew that Pittsburgh, I think he knew, I'm telling his story a bit, but like he knew that Pittsburgh didn't have the comedy training and scene. And so they started offering classes. So you could take like an 8-week stand-up class that culminated in a workshop or like a showcase. And a friend of mine did that and met great people and had a great experience. And people have been asking us to do comedy in years past, but same thing. I don't know the market. I don't even know where to hang a poster, right? Like, so, but when she came to us and said, like, I want to do this and I'm not a promoter, I need help. It seemed like a good time to give it a shot. And we have this VFW up the street that caps at about 150. And our first one there, I think we sold 115. And so it probably hit about cap, right? With guest list and bar staff and whatnot. And so it was really successful. We were able to pay comedians 3 times the amount they typically make, right? Like $60, $70, whatever it was. Everyone was thrilled. And so we picked up another one in July, and I imagine it will become something that the goal is that I can hand this off to my friend and say, here is your comedy promotion package and how you do it. And we book mostly on Saturday nights. So you book on Friday nights and you can rent our gear and like, right. Like we'll show you how to do this thing and send you off to do it. And so, like I said, I've been that's part of this, like kind of mentoring people into their own space, but, she needed a partner. We needed a partner to do it. And couldn't be happier. So she wanted to do it every month. And I said, this was 2 days after the first success. I said, like, let it simmer a week. You're a little high right now. And like, right. Like, let's think about doing this quarterly. first. So, but I think everyone gets really excited, right? When you do something, so when something comes out so well, everybody, you want to run with it and try to run off the momentum of it. But hopefully it's thoughtful enough to do it every quarter and kind of get its own legs and get her ready to fly the nest and do it on her own. So,
Well, thank you for mentoring. That's one thing that is not done near enough, I think, in our industry, when it's
yeah,
so common in every other industry. And,
I know.
just kind of building that next generation and showing what
Yeah.
and then they can build off of it.
Oh yeah.
Um,
I have an arts management degree, arts administration. And so I had some of the background to come into this, and also internships where I found good mentors. And so it was, again, kind of part of that was like unspoken mission, right? Like, let's just help people do things right. And now I belong to a music industry subreddit. I don't know if you're there. It is a mess, but it's mostly it's a lot of young kids saying like, I have this music business degree. What do I do next? And a lot of people are say back to them, well, you shouldn't have got that degree. And it's like, no, that's not like, the degree is actually useful, but like they need a hand to guide them still. And so did you, right? Like, so remember where you came from. Someone helped you become a A&R guy at X, whatever. You didn't just, no one just walked into it. And so, but I'm not going to go on the internet and tell people to be nice, because I know that's a waste of breath. So, be nice, helpful. So, but yeah. So.
well, let's talk a little bit about the Pittsburgh scene. I want to hear who we should, you know, listen to. Who should we take notice of in that Pittsburgh area, whether it's bands, whether it's a singer-songwriter or a comedian? Who should we be on the lookout for?
All right. Well, we've worked a couple times, few times with the Sun Champs, great funk band. They have they played a show for us at the Hollywood a few years ago. And they are really talented guys, really driven. And you can find them on Spotify. They were on the editor's jam band playlist, which was very exciting for them, right? That's it. Right. Like, if you would look at them on the playlist, they were right under Dave Matthews Band, and they were very, very excited about that. And and so but I think they if they wanted to, they could really spread their wings and do a lot of and get seen, do a lot of festival work and get seen elsewhere. Wild Blue Yonder is playing here in a few weeks. Really, really young, really talented. Again, a funk band that just is spectacular to watch. And, I really like to see, I think one of the guys just turned 22 yesterday or something, right? Like, talk about like young and just really doing it well, and have a polished kind of vibe about them. Singer-songwriters, let's think. I really like Orange G, writes like weird, interesting things. Came here and played a couple years ago, and it was like him with a banjo and a guy with like a xylophone, and just like kind of off the wall, interesting. And let's see who else. There's so many bands, and Pittsburgh is pretty ripe with just tons and tons of new bands, and that's not, I can't say that's always been a good thing, where you're just seeing like constant influx of new artists, but the crop in the last few years has been like wildly talented. And one of the great things about Pittsburgh is it has a really good creative and performing arts high school. And so I know when I go see jazz, especially, or some of these other funk players in the scene, I'm like, if I read their bio, they went to Kappa, they went right. Like, the high school is really fed the music scene really well. Probably in the last, well, it's probably like 15 years now, like a lot of these mid-30s players all came out of that program, and now play with some of their teachers who are players in the industry here. And it's pretty special kind of place to come through and learn how to play music and learn how to be a band. And they take them out, and my daughter's boyfriend goes there, and he the Kappa High School Jazz Band just played at one of the regular jazz clubs here in the city. And so they're doing a really good job of that. And so I think that's feeding the music beast really well for us.
That's awesome. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I wish I'd have gone to high school there.
Yeah, right. Me too.
Well, Amy, thank you so much. We're getting close to time, and now is my favorite part of the show. It's where I get to ask our guest, what are 3 actionable items, like things that someone can go home and do and make action, right? Grow their career immediately. What are 3 things that you would give either an artist, a comedian, or someone who wants to be a show promoter? What's 3 pieces of advice you would give them?
I mean, the first one is so obvious. It's network. It's talk to other musicians. If that's your vein, talk to other promoters if that's your vein. And those 2 people should also be talking to each other, right? Learn from each other. There's so many people in the industry that have been doing it a really long time, and people that have even left the industry still have that valuable wealth of knowledge. And I think a lot of them will tell you, like, it's about relationships. The other one is sort of along the same vein, like get involved in your local arts council or your local, like we have something here called Creative Mornings, where you can go and just listen to creators from outside of your specific field talk about how they have been successful. And you can learn so much about press relationships from them, or how to, or marketing, or, how to market your, marketing a piece of pottery may seem different than marketing your band, but you're selling an experience, you're selling an emotion and a piece of art, no matter how you look at it. Let's think. The other one, pay for live music. Don't be the band guy or the production guy that's always on someone's list. Pay your bands, right? That's a little like random, but I totally believe it, right? Like if you end up on somebody's list, buy the vinyl when you're inside, right? Like keep the music scene going with your money. That's the only way it continues.
That is some incredible advice from Amy Kline from Parking Pad in Pittsburgh. So, Amy, thank you so much for being on the show. This has been an absolute blast.
Thank you, Chris. This has been awesome. I'm so glad that I ran into you on Threads.
Oh, it's another great piece of advice. People, go out and get on Threads.
Plug for Threads. Yeah.
Well, and real quick, Amy, where can people find out about you and about Parking Pad?
Sure. We're on the web at www.theparkingpad.com, on Facebook and Instagram at parking. Facebook, it's Parking Pad. Instagram, it's parking.pad, because somebody that sells parking pads already had. Right? I'm constantly up against concrete guys. But yeah, come find us and come see us. We have a show in 3 weeks here with Jerry Garcia Bluegrass Band, Jerry Garcia Tribute Bluegrass. It'd be cool. So.
Awesome, Amy. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Do That Music Thing podcast. To learn more about me, the host, Christopher Foust, you can catch me online at christopherfoust.com, on Instagram at chrisfaustmusic, or on Twitter at chrisjamesgtr. If you'd like to be a guest on the Do That Music Thing podcast, please feel free to email me at chrisfaustmusic@gmail.com. If you're a fan of the show, head on over and leave us a 5-star review. Thanks for listening. I'm Chris Foust. Let's go do that music thing.